Hi, so this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons participants and a specific type of Dungeons and Dragons participant called an Exogink. So this is a term that I've come up with to describe a specific type of Dungeons and Dragons participant, because I want to know all the different types of Dungeons and Dragons participants. Also, to be super clear, I want to make it clear. I think. Oh, you know what? Let me tell you what an Exogink is. It is a it is a person who participates in Dungeons and Dragons by no longer playing Dungeons and Dragons and playing a different game, specifically a game that is not Dungeons and Dragons. And a good example of this would specifically be um, uh, Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars tabletop role playing game, which has special narrative dice and is distinctly different than Dungeons and Dragons, and is completely and utterly. I, I was gonna say divorced, but that's actually not completely clear. There is so like it is so hard for almost any role playing game to not be connected to Dungeons and Dragons. It's truly astounding. So this is a person who and to be clear, I think that essentially all people participate in Dungeons and Dragons today. They either participate by doing it, playing it, reading it, collecting it, experiencing it, or they participate in it by not playing it and having a distinct, known, communicated reason why. There really is no one left who's ignorant of Dungeons and Dragons and doesn't know that it is a thing. They don't actually know what it is, but they know it exists and they know the name, and they recognize the name, and they have chosen to not do it, but they're still participating in it because they carry its name. So let's talk about an Exogink. So an Exogink is someone who played Dungeons and Dragons at one point, but no longer plays Dungeons and Dragons because they've switched to a different game. And I had a friend who did this. I had a friend who fell in love with. He came in through Dungeons and Dragons, just like 99. There 1% of all, I believe, in my humble opinion, it's very clear. 1% of all tabletop role playing people come in other than D&D. D&D starts everybody. And then there's this very common occurrence, which is I'm here, and this is very powerful. I'm here, and then Dungeons and Dragons is not cool anymore. I play Dungeons and Dragons, and and now I found Blades in the Dark, and now I found Decipher's Star Trek system, right? Or now I found Fantasy Flight Games tabletop role playing game, and oh my goodness, it's so much better. And D&D isn't cool, right? And this is like the teenager who doesn't like their parents, right? Like, it's the Dungeons and Dragons supplied them with everything, brought them in, made sure there was great art, great writing, great layout in the book, but now they want to rebel, right? Like, and so an Exogink is someone who came in through Dungeons and Dragons and then got too cool for school and doesn't play Dungeons and Dragons anymore and plays this other game. And I definitely saw this happen. I had a buddy who really got into Fantasy Flight Games, Star Wars, and literally bought every canon hardback, every FFG canon Star Wars hardback, because that Star Wars stuff is canon, right? They make it, you know, almost religiously adhere to the Star Wars canon. And I actually think there's things that came from the tabletop role playing game that went the other direction and went into Star Wars canon, right? And he just fell in love with these hardback books from FFG, and that was expensive. It was very expensive because they were popping out 5 to 10 books a year, and he collected for like 4 years, right? And he was getting, card sets, custom dice. That game uses custom dice, right? He put thousands of dollars into it, and because he did that, he ran one campaign, and he would run 4, 5, 6 hours a session, right? And then he was playing in another campaign, so there was no more time for D&D. And then once he stopped playing D&D, he was very susceptible to D&D sucks. It is And why do the OSR and the Indie insist that everybody who plays their game says D&D sucks? Well, they know it's a competition, and we know this more than ever. Like this whole noise of just play what you want, it's not really like that. Everybody needs players, everybody needs dungeon masters, and there is a competition for it, right? There's a competition for players. We have extremely limited time, and this hobby takes a ton of time and a ton of money, right? And so with that, it can take a ton of money. Actually, you can play it for free, but who does, right? Like there's really virtually no one. It's a very small group. It's a very small group that plays Dungeons Dragons on with little or no money. So that's an Exogink. Is someone who came in from Dungeons Dragons, did play Dungeons Dragons, and now has stopped playing Dungeons Dragons because they've moved on and they're passionate about another game. Now, why are they a participant? Well, they're a participant because, one, they literally did do it. And here's another one. They always, always, always have the possibility of coming back with each new edition, right? And now, with each new publishing of the core rulebooks, with each publishing launch of the core rulebooks. We had a publishing launch in 2014, and Dungeons & Dragons is going to have another publishing launch in 2024 of the core rulebooks, but there'll be no addition. Wait, what did you say, Scott? Did that sound weird? It sounded weird because it is weird. It is very weird. So just wanted to let you know what an Exogink is. They are definitely D&D participants, and I wanted to share that with you. Please consider liking, subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.